Welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney for a new look pubcast, a new look United pubcast. As you can see, we unveiled our new logo the other day, and obviously you can see one or two different backgrounds, etc., which you'll be seeing in terms of it's a red one for this one. But for example, next week if we have an away game, we'll have our sky blue kit in the background or our third kit, etc. But we're just trialing with the red one for today. And we've got a few different logos and sort of images we'll be throwing up on social media in due course. But we do appreciate all the kind feedback about the word, about all the work we're there. And also, Larry's not with me today, but a big thank you does go out to Larry for his work with liaising with the guy who did the graphics with us. It's great to see because the podcast has obviously evolved over the time. I don't know how long we've been doing it now, George. You're obviously one of our first
3 years.
3 years. So one of our first listeners.
Congratulations on that. That's a very good achievement. And the amount of the guests that you've had, obviously both high and low profile, all have had very interesting and very knowledgeable insights to enhancing the viewer experience, which I as a viewer have extremely benefited.
Oh, very kind words, George. I'll give you your check a little bit later, or I might give you some extra cash on Saturday night. So I'm definitely looking forward to Saturday night over Wednesday morning. We do have a 9:30 p.m. kickoff against Arsenal. The Man United Supporters Club, we gathering at the pub. Again, not just a thank you to George and Larry and etc., but all the listeners as well. As I said, it's been 3 years, so it has been a while. And obviously the origins of the pubcast obviously are in the title. Not a podcast, but a pubcast. It did start at the pub. We used to smash an iPhone down on the middle of the table and just talk and have that pub ambience. Now, obviously, that changed a lot throughout COVID, and we sort of made that move to sort of Zoom calls and YouTube, and sort of really appreciate all the support. Larry and I are very grateful. But make sure you are subscribed if you're new, and we'll hopefully get one or two more. Not that George isn't a great guest, but maybe sort of one or two more, maybe high-profile guests in the coming weeks leading up to that Perth trip. That would be great. But I'll just say good day to a few legends in the live chat.
Trip. You meant to say the Melbourne trip, didn't you? Instead of the Perth trip.
Melbourne, Perth, Australian trip. Yep. Well, you said 3 years. We started pretty much at the Perth trip. Stephen Howson, I think, was actually our first guest. So that goes to show how long ago that was. But yes, obviously, George, thank you for correcting me. The Melbourne trip. But I'll just say good day to a few guys in here. The Football Capital, Borche from the Football Capital. You mean to stop the quad. Thanks for bringing the mood down, mate. Obviously, you have seen from the thumbnail trying to stop Liverpool's treble. But as Borche's correctly pointed me wrong there, saying they are actually in line for doing the quadruple, unfortunately. But that is one of the topics for today in regards to can we stop them? Should we stop them? Is it possible to stop them? Because, my God, George, I think it is a real possibility. But Dion, is always good to see you here, mate. George as well, the other George. Hey, lads, I'd love if we got a point via Liverpool. Even one would be paper in the cracks. Look, I don't care about paper and cracks. I don't care about our points. I just need Liverpool to drop points. Because, George, when is the last time Liverpool lost a football match? I know they had the draw against Benfica, but it's a nothing game. They went through. I cannot tell you every single week they win. Surely there has to come a time when they're going to drop points.
Yeah, personally, I don't really remember.
I'm telling you, every week you turn the TV on, Liverpool have won 2-0 at home to Norwich, and it's just.
I know they're on a 10-game winning run. It was in the league.
Oh, it feels like it's 10,000 games. Mike, is always good to see you, mate. Matt, hopefully see you on Saturday night at the pub.
I think it might. You know what? Chelsea was the last team that beat them, and ironically, that's who they're playing in the FA Cup final.
Yeah, obviously, the FA Cup final or FA Cup semi-finals were this week. Ian, good mate of ours from over in Perth, an improvement not only on visual but also podcasters tonight. Hopefully, Larry obviously will be back on Wednesday night reviewing the Liverpool match, albeit depending on the result. Now, if it is another 5 or 6-0, I might not be back, let alone Larry. So time will tell if we both appear on Wednesday night after Liverpool match. But Dion as well, just turn up against Liverpool. That's all I ask. Run your rings off for 90 minutes and show it means something to play for United, which is probably one of the main topics for me. In regards to this one.
Sorry, Tom, just about Liverpool losing. Well, I'm actually wrong in saying that they lost to Chelsea because that was a while ago. Well, they didn't actually lose. And that their actual last loss in the league was against Leicester on the 29th of January, I believe it was.
Jeez. Well, there must have been away at Leicester. I can't say.
Sorry, no, 29th of December. They were away at the King Power, 29th of December.
Maybe we can give them their first loss of 2022. Steve Austin here saying... Throw everything plus the kitchen sink at them, getting points off Liverpool. Hope this team is up for it. Emad, evening. Always good to see you, mate. Great panel. Completely agree. Ian, just having a chat with Ian and Rob from It's a Football Thing, as always. Good to have you guys in here. And look, I don't know where to start, George, here. We have a bit of breaking news before not breaking news, but Gary Neville pointed out just before he went live on air that it's 1 year to the day since the European Super League was announced. and sort of the lack of action from the club in terms of the promises that were made from the ownership in regards to sort of rebuilding that communication path with fans. They have been completely silent a year on, so it goes to show they completely failed with that promise. Bruno Fernandes, just before he went live on air, was involved in a car crash. So fingers crossed, all reports says that he is okay. And you assume when these sort of reports come out, it's probably someone backed into him at Carrington. I'm sure it's not an actual car crash and it's just a technicality, but fingers crossed he is okay. And obviously the other parties involved in that car crash. But just where do you want to start in this one? Because we're going to get into starting 11 predictions and sort of how good Liverpool are and how bad we are and what does it mean for the rest of the season and the treble and quadruple talk. But whenever we go into a game against Liverpool, there's this buzz, whether it's a nervous buzz or a positive buzz, there's always this feeling. This one just has no hope, even though we're coming off the back of a win, a dramatic win, 3-2 win. That, okay, it's albeit against Norwich, but off the back of a win, we should have some type of momentum going into this. But it is just flat, and this build-up is just filled with absolute dread, in my opinion. Or am I being a bit too pessimistic?
I agree with you, because there's one sentiment I like to think about is, have you ever felt this low post-Fergie? With United in general, that's my question for you. Have you ever
we've had this discussion had this discussion in regards to low points, and I think we need to go back and think about the fall when David Moyes took over in terms of how far we did fall and what that felt like. I think that was sort of tough to beat. We went from the best team in England and English champions to not even qualifying for Europe. That was a drastic fall, which I think hit a lot of fans hard. But in terms of, we've mentioned before, the expectations around the club this season, pretty much, unfortunately, when Ronaldo arrived, but also the other transfer business, finishing second in the league, having what sort of seemed on paper a very good transfer window. The expectations, unfortunately, do maybe sort of add weight to your argument in terms of this is potentially as low as we've felt in the last decade.
But look, if there's one game that you're always up for, whether, as you said, whether it's nervous or optimistic, it's Liverpool and it's City. Hopefully, we don't repeat our performances against that opposition that we've seen in previous years. And I'm sure we'll get into it. It's the starting 11. A lot of people have alluded to it in the comments, but effort's the first thing that we want to see, and I guess that's evident in the starting 11. Maybe not with all players, but with some.
With that, in terms of effort, and we're sort of putting these not expectations, we're putting these demands on this sort of current group at the moment in terms of what we expect from them. Okay, we need to see effort. Regardless of the result, we want to see you put 100% effort in. Now, if we put 100% effort in against Liverpool, every single player leaves it all out on the pitch and we lose, the frustration will take over and we'll question the player's effort. It's all nice to say that before the match, but if we lose, frustration will be high and we say, oh, they don't care.
It's one of those things that I don't think we're necessarily going to question the effort, but then it's a double-edged sword. If we display quality but no effort, we criticise the effort. If we display effort but no quality, we'll say our team's not good enough, and that's the fault of the recruitment and that we didn't do business in January and in the summer.
That's the thing. I want to get into sort of the treble talk and unfortunately the quadruple talk in terms of this whole build-up for United, whether we're going to get top four or not get top four. The whole thing, I think, for so many fans at the moment is stopping Liverpool winning the league or stopping Liverpool winning the treble. Liverpool are better than us. United aren't as good. So if we're ultimately not good enough to beat Liverpool, can we place that demand and expectation on them to stop them? Well, obviously it's a one-off game, and so we do expect that effort. We do demand that effort. But ultimately, we all sit here and agree we're not good enough to beat Liverpool, but we're placing this demand on them to go and beat Liverpool to sort of fulfill our, not say fantasy, but fulfill our sort of ambition as a fan to keep that treble alive. But at the moment, are we placing I wouldn't say an unfair demand on the players, because we're not. They're highly paid professionals. They can go out and beat Liverpool on their day. But we're sitting here, and if we do lose to Liverpool, we'll act shocked and we'll throw our toys out of the pram, and I'll be the same. Of course I will. But we're sitting here before the game saying we've got no chance. I'm just thinking it's a weird situation. I just don't see any positive smiles after this game, regardless of how it goes. Obviously, a win would change that, but I can't see a win going.
Look, it's one of those things that even if we do go down to this game, I want to see a game whereby we have a game plan, stick to that game plan, and do our best to execute it, and do the 1%ers right, making basic passes, whether it's Fred in midfield doing stupid things in his own, or not doing stupid things in the 6-yard box, taking the high percentage option in our own half of the field. And then, yes, I know we've been a bit frustrated with Bruno, but having the confidence and the ability to play the pass that we need to split the lines, because ultimately we've lacked creativity. With regards to the fullbacks, Ronaldo thrives on an early cross, because that's when he can isolate a defender one-on-one and out jump them. Put a good cross in the ball for him, please. We've been calling out for it all season, and it just unfortunately hasn't happened enough. I know the stats about Ronaldo's headers that he scored this season. Yes, he did score one on the weekend, but it's not to say that he's lost his ability in the air. ultimately, if you don't get a good cross that you can get your head on, of course you're going to score one less
Look,
headers.
I completely agree there, but we are away at Liverpool. We need to find ourselves in a position to be able to get a cross in. I think Robertson and Alexander-Arnold will be getting the 30 or 40 crosses in per half. I think they'll be peppering our box with crosses. Whether our fullbacks can get in that position to do that, I'm not quite sure. But Emad here, look, a discussion I'm sure we'll be having plenty of on Saturday night, mate, but Bruno's been awful for a while. No one wants to admit it. I think on the last podcast I said Bruno's been absolutely awful. So I think obviously Bruno
I'd
does
go as
get...
far as saying he was close to our worst player on the pitch on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's what
He was
both of us
close
said
to
on the
it.
podcast. Look, he has been, but it's one of those ones in terms of who else are going to play there. We're getting our team selections at the moment, and there's no surprise who I'm playing in midfield. You'll be alongside Bruno Fernandes most likely, but it's one of those ones. Look, Bruno has been awful, no doubt. Is there one player you can take Ronaldo out of the equation? Who do you back with, popping up with a goal? Not that we're going to score against Liverpool, but if there's one player who can make something happen, whether like him or hate him, Bruno Fernandes is potentially that guy. I don't see how starting someone else over him is going to improve our chances of winning. I don't think Bruno Fernandes out of the starting 11 gives us a better chance of winning the match. I think it's the same chance with Bruno in the match, Bruno in the starting 11 or Bruno out of the starting 11. But it is interesting. I'll get your thoughts when we move on to the starting 11. But before the actual match preview, just what I've talked about there, and get your thoughts in the comments as well in regards to this treble and this quadruple. Obviously, we have to look in our own backyard, George, and a successful season for Man United's trophies. We can't look at what Liverpool did. We can't look at what Chelsea are doing. We can't look at what Manchester City are achieving. We can only concern ourselves with what Man United are doing. And we're not doing enough on off the pitch. We're an absolute shambles. There's something about that treble. You can almost look at we'll talk about Arsenal later in the week, but we'll talk about how Arsenal sort of cling on to their invincibles. We cling on to our treble. It's a natural thing. I'm definitely not criticising fans for that because here I am. I'm clinging on to that treble for dear life. But that is so important. What does this mean for you in regards to, is it important for you to keep that over Liverpool? Or if Liverpool win it, do you think, oh, it's a shame, but it's no real skin off your back? Just how do you think? Because I'm maybe wrongfully, I don't know. I'm absolutely terrified of the idea. And forget the treble, George. They're in line for a quadruple potentially.
Wrongfully, I'm also very scared of that as well, and that's something that no other team in England has achieved. And the fact if they go on and do win that quadruple, what other team in Europe has done that? Forget England. What other team in Europe has done that? Personally, I don't think that they're going to catch City in the league. I do Chelsea in a cup final. I just can't bet against them. I think the most likely option is win, or the trophy that they're most likely to win is the Champions League. And obviously that'll be hurt seeing them become the second most prolific team in the Champions League, along with AC Milan. But ultimately, Real Madrid's won it more times. They can't brag about winning that more than anyone else.
Yeah. Rob here saying knife to the heart if Liverpool do it. Look,
100%, Rob.
It would be fascinating as a neutral if we weren't Man United fans and we're looking at this season in terms of the top four race, in terms of the title race, even the relegation battle with Everton. It would be amazing to watch as a neutral. Unfortunately, we aren't neutrals. Emad here saying, more importantly, Tom, can you inform the viewers about the jinx you put on Erik ten Hag last night? It was one of those ones where people sort of mentioned that he had the Dutch Cup final, and he's nailed on to lose that. Whatever happened, he was always going to lose that. A couple of days before he's going to be announced as Man United manager. Unfortunately, that was simply the case. If we're about to announce Pochettino, he would have lost to the team coming last in the French league. That is just what's going to happen, unfortunately. But I'm sure that doesn't change anyone's opinion on Ten Hag or Manchester United's future. It's one game. I think Ten Hag and Ajax are lined up to win the Dutch league anyway.
Oh yeah.
But make sure you do leave a like on the video if you don't want Liverpool to win the treble. If you're happy to take points off them or break some legs or something to stunt their title charge, please do leave a like on the video. That would be great because we are getting into starting 11s, George. And again, what I go back to in terms of the mood and the build up to this game, it's just filled me with absolute dread. I don't know how to approach this game. Before we get into the actual sort of individuals in regards to a starting 11 and a formation, how do you approach this in regards to... It's one of those ones where say, just throw everything at them. Don't sit back. Okay, sitting back tactically might be the best thing, but ultimately Liverpool's pressure is going to pay. So why not just take the risk, have a go? Ultimately, if we do that, we say we don't have a go against Norwich, and Norwich absolutely walk through us. So you can imagine if we do have a go against Liverpool, they'll have an absolute field day, and we're worried about 5-0 last time. I'll get to my score prediction in a little bit. I'm absolutely dreading what the score could be if Liverpool turn up and United can't sort of aren't quite at the races. So just in regards to the approach from Ralph Rangnick, do you sit back and soak up pressure or do you have a go? And there's no correct answer in my opinion, which unfortunately sums up the situation we're in.
Yeah, and look, it's one of the things that we've got to look at how Ole the way I think about that sort of game is when we played them in the FA Cup in the 2021 season, where Ole got the team to sit back and play on the counter. And the one thing I'm looking for in terms of team selection, with the exception of one player, which I'll get into when my lineup comes up, is that I want to see players that are working off the ball, because ultimately Alexander-Arnold and Robertson are going to overlap constantly, put pressure on our fullbacks, whip crosses into the box. We need to make sure that we have both our wingers and our fullbacks working together to make sure that there's not an easy overlap. With regards to the middle of the pitch, I do think we need an outball to someone to pick up the ball from our back four and progress the ball forward. And in terms of the counter, obviously I'm not going to drop Ronaldo, but we need someone that's energetic enough to do the defensive work. But
do you think it's the game?
The counter?
We'll bring up our starting 11s in a little bit, and I've seen them both, and obviously Ronaldo is going to be in there. Now, maybe he just picks himself. Obviously, he picks himself most weeks, but in regards to availability and the other strikers, the lack of availability, is there a case we've seen Ralph Rangnick in the past in these big games not pick Ronaldo? Obviously, the biggest case being that Manchester City game. Is there? I don't think there is. Surely there's not. But is there a potential situation where Ronaldo doesn't play this? I know there can't be because he just scored a hat-trick and he's our only real striker. But is there a situation if Ralph Rangnick is fearing something in regards to the way our team is going to sort of stylistically set up against Liverpool, is there a potential sort of cat amongst the pigeons where Ronaldo doesn't play?
Well, you said it. The reason why it's not going to happen is because there's no other option.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that in terms of it can't happen. But I'm just thinking if Ralph Rangnick had his way, potentially that would be the case. But George is here saying 4-3-3, I reckon, and play who can hold the ball. If we give away many issues for the semi-truck, Maguire. And Rob saying press conference tonight, any chance of some players back, which will be interesting. I'll bring George's lineup up here in mine as well. Rob just makes a point in regards to the press conference. This is obviously done before the press conference, and I don't think there's an actual press conference. I think there was probably just an embargoed section after the Norwich game. But this is obviously before any team news comes out in regards to those injuries with McTominay. Luke Shaw obviously looks like he's going to miss the rest of the season. You got Fred and obviously Rafael Varane. So, George, I'll bring your team up here, and we're just obviously under the consideration that those players are likely still going to be out. You can talk me through your thinking if you think one of them could come back into the team. But obviously a front three, obviously no room for Rashford there. You've gone for sort of public enemy number one in regards to Paul Pogba at the moment and the treatment he got off Man United fans. So that's an interesting shout. And the back four, whenever we select our captain, that's always cause for controversy. So just talk me through your starting 11.
Okay, so let me start with Harry Maguire. There's no point in me talking about why he shouldn't be in the team, but ultimately Rangnick's going to pick him if he's not going to pick Bailly or Phil Jones. And from what my understanding is that Varane's not going to be back. And even if he was, it'd probably be Varane Maguire. With regards to the wingers, the reason why I've left Rashford out is because Sancho and Elanga have been the ones that have worked off the ball. And ultimately, that's what we're going to need when Robertson and Alexander-Arnold are overlapping. What Elanga okay, we both agree that Elanga doesn't have too much of a future at United, not to write him off too early, but we ultimately see that he has a ceiling. I also see much the same with Rashford as well, so I don't see why we're placing Rashford so far over Elanga when Elanga's actually been the one that's working off the ball and actually producing more right now. So I think he's got to be rewarded for that. Sancho picks himself on the other side because he's that extra bit of quality that you need in transition. With regards to the midfield, I feel as though we need Matic because if and when we do get the ball in their forward half, we're going to need to commit bodies forward, and Matic is the one that knows how to sweep up. Even if it's only for that hour, we need a body in there that is comfortable in doing that. With regards to Paul Pogba, the reason why I picked him is ultimately to beat the best teams, you need the best quality that you have at the club. Whether we like to admit it or not, Paul Pogba is the best footballer at our club. That doesn't mean I don't think we should let him go. Big shout out to Donnie in the comments. I'm listening from Canberra, and you listener, make sure you subscribe to this channel because they're a great channel. Tom and Larry doing a great job on this show. But yeah, look, while my sentiment on Pogba doesn't change, that I do think he should leave, you have to utilise him while he's there.
Look, it is a case, and look, I was critical of his performance against Norwich, and if you do look at stats and you look at what he did do on the ball, you think, actually, he wasn't bad, especially compared to the other players in a red shirt. Pogba did look okay, but ultimately off the ball, I thought Norwich just absolutely walked through us, and I think a lot of that, not solely on Pogba, but I think in terms of his work rate off the ball, he leaves a lot to be desired. But he met here with a point. I like the lineup, George. I feel Paul Matic is going to age another 10 years if he's in the six on his own, which is one of my concerns. And look,
ultimately, the thing is, I don't think he will necessarily be in the 6 on his own. The way the game pans out, like even if it's 4-3-3 on paper, if we're defending a lot, that naturally becomes a 4-2-3-1 because one of the 8s has to drop in.
But if one of those 8s is a Paul Pogba, if Paul Pogba's sitting next to Nemanja Matic in another 6 in a defensive capacity, isn't that pretty much, in my opinion, harsh on Paul Pogba in saying this? Matic is still by himself there. Like,
As much as it's harsh on saying this, but the way I said it, I feel like that'd be a more correct statement if we were going to be dominating. But the reality is, when they're going to have more possession, that naturally forces Pogba to be playing deeper anyway.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a case of that. Rob here saying Matic should play. Eric here saying, good evening, lads. Got a horrible feeling about the game, but thinking it won't be 5-0, maybe 4-0. That's the better bet, right? Well, I'm going to get into my it's not starting 11 prediction, but score prediction in a little bit, which I don't usually like the score predictions, but I'm just adamant something's going to happen. Something that we don't not like and is going to happen on, obviously, Wednesday morning. Hope no backfire for George. And Pogba here saying Pogba will jog 2 steps, then go to ground, which... The Pogba situation, well, I'll bring my line up here, George, and Pogba's not in it. And tell me if this is... I know this is wrong in regards to starting Juan Mata in midfield. I know it's wrong. I can hear everyone in the chat going, what on earth are you talking about playing Juan Mata in there over Paul Pogba? I understand all the criticism there. I'll just throw a few questions. I'll throw a few questions to you, George, but also the live chat. Look, very similar situation in regards to their contracts. Okay, Juan Mata's out of contract. He's likely going to leave the club. Paul Pogba's out of contract. He's likely going to leave the club. In regards to their attitude, effort levels, and also just looking back in terms of their time at the club, they've both been at the club for a while now. Maybe, George, I remember you're obviously a walking encyclopedia in regards to sort of looking back at past performances and sort of results. During Paul Pogba's time at United, has he ever delivered at Anfield?
Apart from the FA Cup win, I don't remember.
Did we win a game of the FA Cup at Anfield?
Oh, not at Anfield. No, it was at Old Trafford, but it was against Liverpool.
So I'm talking Anfield. I can't remember. And look, not many players do. So I don't want to criticise Paul Pogba too much in regards to not stepping up at Anfield. A lot of players have sort of failed to do that. But Juan Mata is one of the very few. And obviously it was against a very different Liverpool team. My God, Steven Gerrard played for that Liverpool team for a couple of seconds in that game. But ultimately, Juan Mata has delivered at Anfield. And now when he comes on the field this season, ultimately we always look a better team when Juan Mata's on the field. Now, this is not the game to bring him back in for. I fully understand that, especially with the defensive responsibility. And now he is very smart in the way he defends. But in regards to the physical approach, in regards to legs, obviously it's not ideal to be playing Juan Mata in this game. But ultimately, I don't see us as weaker with Juan Mata compared to Paul Pogba from that defensive side. I think Juan Mata will be sensible. I think he'll keep the ball, because one of the huge things when you're defending is the way you stop defending is by keeping the ball. So many people think, I'll get your defensive players in, which I see Mad here saying Wan-Bissaka is more of a shock starter than Mata there, Tom. Ideally, yes, Delo for me. I just have a feeling Wan-Bissaka will start in regards to that. We'll be defending for 90 minutes. I just think more often than not, if I'm backing someone to win a tackle, Delo or Wan-Bissaka, I think Wan-Bissaka will win that tackle more often. Now, like Juan Mata, which I'm going to make the exact same case for Diogo Delo here, is in regards to, well, maybe we'll defend less if we have Delo over Wan-Bissaka, because we'll keep the ball a bit more. I think we'll defend less with Juan Mata over Paul Pogba, because I think Juan Mata will keep the ball more. Now, ultimately, I don't think Juan Mata and Delo sort of would offer us an extra 10, 15% possession of the ball, but maybe that 5% can help. So do let me know.
Look, with regards to the defensive side of things, yes, I agree with you. I've always had Wan-Bissaka over Delo. I still stand by that. But I feel like just for this game, that yes, Wan-Bissaka is going to win a tackle, but ultimately the way that Liverpool swarm to win the ball back, Wan-Bissaka is going to get caught out and play stupid pass, as we saw in the 5-0 drubbing. So that for me is why I went Delo over Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, no, look, it's been interesting because remember the first thing Ralph Rangnick did when he came in was change those fullbacks. He got rid of Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka and put in Tellez and Delo, and it's almost maybe sort of flipped now. He's almost gone back, and it's an interesting sort of development in regards to fullbacks, especially when we look forward to the transfer window and what's going to occur there. And Mike here, I'll just always put this up for a bit of Juan Mata love. I agree with you, Tom. I would pick Mata over Paul Pogba. No effort, no commitment to the club, and he's repeatedly allowed his manager to drive a wedge between the club, which, look, I'm sure we'll be having a full sort of looking back at Paul Pogba's time at United in a couple of weeks when he eventually does leave the club. But Rob here saying, think all the Pogba treatment is harsh. I'd use him every game till he leaves. If that happens, look,
that was my point. That was my point. You've just got to utilize, even if you know he's leaving, you've got to utilize the best footballers that you have at your club, especially when you're playing against the best teams. Look, don't get me wrong. I love Juan Mata. Don't get me wrong. I love Juan Mata. And if I was the Man United manager, I'd probably be starting him on the right over Elanga. But the reason why I had Alanga in my lineup. Same reason as Maguire's, just because I know Ranić will pick them.
Maybe there is a shout in regards to that right wing. Obviously, Juan Mata's double at Anfield those years ago did come from the right wing, so maybe that is a shout. And look, I agree with Rob there. Emad agrees with Rob there, and yourself.
You even
there,
said
George.
it. Our best defensive performances were last year.
No.
You said this on the podcast. Our best defensive performances were with Mata on the right and Dan James on the left.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's not about quality or what they look like when they're defending. It's about the intelligence. Or not even intelligence, but just doing the right thing, which some players don't do the right thing for us. But in regards to that Pogba point, I've here just said play Juan Mata over Pogba. But I agree with Rob and yourself there in regards to, yes, sometimes you do have to play them. But my fear is I'll play Paul Pogba like I've done the last couple of weeks. But then ultimately you're disappointed when the result goes against us and we see Paul Pogba's performance. The frustration in us is, why do we play Paul Pogba? He's not committed to the club. And in my mind, I can just see that situation happening again. So I'm just going, well, I'll get more enjoyment out of seeing Juan Mata play over Paul Pogba. But look, George, we're going to get into score predictions in a little bit. I've just said don't pick Paul Pogba, and I don't think Paul Pogba has delivered at Anfield. With what's he got left? 5-6 games left at Manchester United.
Yeah,
you could almost see him popping up with it. You could almost see him popping up with his best performance in United shirt this week.
Playing devil's advocate, yes, he might not be committed to the club, but if you're putting yourself in the shop window, do you not want to test yourself against, as much as I hate to admit, a team that's arguably the best in Europe now?
Do you think he's in a shop window, or do you think he knows what he's doing?
I think he is. I mean, I've always personally thought he's signing with Real Madrid, and that's just a deal that hasn't been announced yet. But if he genuinely is in the shop window, he could put an extra zero on that contract if he puts in a performance against arguably the best team in Europe, as much as I hate to admit it.
Yeah, no, look, it's hard to argue. And we'll be having a very different discussion, whatever way the result goes on Wednesday morning, Sydney time. I'm sure Pogba will sort of dominate the discussion. Dion here saying, can I just say, matchday fans burn Pogba and continuing to sing Cavani's name, give yourself several uppercuts. Look, there's no doubt there's sort of hypocrisy amongst the fan base on all levels, myself included. I think it's natural. It makes hypocrites of us all day. But I'll just read out one or two more things before we get into the comments here. Steve saying 3 up front, Liverpool is futile. We need to control the midfield. Let's not discuss that shit show at the back. Yeah, look, front three is interesting. My thinking with Alanga and Sancho is just play them in midfield. Ronaldo be up front by himself.
But sorry, look, Steve, right there. On paper, it's a front three, but realistically, when you're defending, those wingers drop back. Sancho
will be playing left wing back behind. And actually, Alanga dropped in at right back towards the end of the game against Norwich.
Yeah, he did. And I thought it was okay. And I remember when he came on in the Carabao Cup against West Ham, did a very good recovery one to win the ball at left back.
Yeah, definitely. Now, unfortunately, I don't like score predictions, George. I don't like them. I don't see the point in them. I never get them right, and ultimately, they mean nothing. But I'm going to give one here, and not maybe an accurate score prediction, but I just have a feeling I can't see it going another way. I can only see Liverpool scoring early. I think their crowd will be up for it. I think United's attitude and the way sometimes we stuck, I think we'll be shocked by that atmosphere.
Is it a Harry Maguire own goal? That's the early goal?
I could see that, or I can see a cross from Alexander-Arnold sort of being floated in and Harry Maguire get caught in two minds and maybe Diogo Jota just slipping in behind and sort of bundling it over. And I can see that happening early. And I just feel... Look, we lost 5-0 to them, and look, we're woeful against Liverpool. That wasn't our worst performance of the season when we lost 5-0 to them. So I just have a feeling it could potentially happen again. And for some reason, I hope I'm wrong. And sometimes these games often end up in bore sort of 0-0 draws more often than not. I just have a bad feeling this is going to be another 5 or 6-0. Tell me I'm dreaming.
Look, I don't think it'll be 5 or 6-0, but ultimately, if they score early, like the one thing I've harped on about when I've come on this podcast before the derby and before our last Liverpool game was that the first 20 minutes are so crucial. We just can't concede that. In every one of those 3 games, that's been the case. We've conceded early. And yeah, Donny, I wish it was that easy for us to defend well. It just hasn't happened at the moment. And look, with regards to their crowd being up for it, of course they are. It's United Liverpool. They could be bottom of the league and we could be top and they'd still be up for it and vice versa. But yeah, ultimately, when your team is in a title race, it's that extra lift. Whereas with us, we've questioned the mentality of the players. Do they have the mental strength and capacity to be able to tolerate the Anfield crowd and stick to the game plan and not let it get to their heads? We don't know. I guess that's to be determined today.
This point here from Emad, which is what I alluded to earlier in regards to the demand we're placing on it. Forget the score, forget placings, forget trebles or whatever. The demand we're placing on these players at the moment is effort, 100% effort. And this is my concern, saying the score is irrelevant, put up a fight, don't fold like a lawn chair as we did at Old Trafford, show us what it means, which I completely agree. Yes, stuff everything else, show that you care. My fear is, though, if Liverpool take that extra step towards a league title and a trophy, even if we put 100% effort in, I don't think our fan base will. Maybe some people will, and I'll try to. but the frustration after the game will just be frustrated and will say, no, they didn't put effort in. They don't care. They're sort of on holidays. They don't sort of give a shit, really. And
Look,
that's my fear.
Yeah. Look, I want to take a look in their backyard for a bit. They've got their own debacle going on as well. Mohamed Salah, where's he playing next season? Tell me.
I think he
This
stays.
this could be the perfect game where if they lose and he puts in a subpar performance, they turn on him. It could be that game.
Look, I understand.
He's at a standoff with them at the moment. And
Fingers
personally,
crossed,
I don't think he's at Liverpool next year.
Look, fingers crossed that's the case. I can't say Liverpool turn. I know what you mean, but I think we're sort of clutching at straws there. But look, it will be interesting here, George, saying De Gea Titanic performance 1-1. Emad coming back here with, this is 10-8 to Emad here. Maybe even 10-7, George, the Titanic sunk. But Raphael here saying, hope you're well. Obviously, George is our Man United Supporters Club goalkeeper, but obviously Raphael, our other goalkeeper, also saved a penalty in his last appearance. So obviously well stocked in the goalkeepers union here. But until then, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to discuss in regards to the match? In regards to, we're given sort of unfortunate score predictions and how it's going to unfold.
Actually, also, got Yanni, a Liverpool fan, joining us. Thanks for joining us, Yanni. From a Liverpool fan's perspective, he's saying you shouldn't keep a player that wants way too much per week. That's an interesting take because FSG are known not to break their model. And at 29 years of age, which Salah is now, we had this debate. Do you see it getting any better?
Ultimately, Man United were in that position as well, and ultimately we broke it at some stage. And Liverpool will see that benefit in keeping a Mo Salah in regards to commercial. One, he's a fantastic player; they want to keep, but obviously what he brings them off the field, I think he's probably one of the most underrated. We look at Ronaldo, we look at Messi, we look at Neymar for their commerciality and what they bring off the field in regards to marketing. I think Salah is probably potentially one of the most underrated players in what he sort of brings to sort of that part of the world, or brings from that part of the world. And I think because he's on that verge of being that best in the world or Ballon d'Or winner, I think Liverpool, if they're going to break that sort of module and break that sort of first step into going that direction, I think it will be for a player like Mo Salah. And then from a Man United's point of view, hopefully that is the catalyst for sort of more decisions like that, which we've obviously found ourselves in that hole, which it can take you a decade to get out of. And obviously we're still in the middle of it at the moment. There's no end in sight. So fingers crossed that does happen for Liverpool. But it will be interesting. But in terms of that, we've just all this doom and gloom, no chance of winning. It's one of those ones where you think potentially we can see it happening. You can almost see it happening. If there's one time you're going to win 1-0, Ronaldo stepping up or Bruno Fernandes stepping up, it's potentially this one, which, my God, if that happened, George, look, it's been a failure of a season on all fronts. On, off the field, it's been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, look,
if it did stop them winning it, it would be a successful season for me in regards to the situation.
I'm going to be deluded and say we're going to win 2-1. I'm going to be deluded and say we're winning 2-1. Ronaldo and Bruno score. I'm going to be deluded and say that.
Well, George, you'll have to meet Emad for a beer at Scruffy Murphy's on Saturday night after that one. Obviously, we won't even be watching the Arsenal match if that happens. We'll just be celebrating the Liverpool result. But that is a debate for another day, or a discussion for another day in regards to Saturday night. The Man United Supporters Club will be sort of meeting up at Scruffy Murphy's for a rare 9:30 p.m. kickoff against Arsenal. We never get an early kickoff against Arsenal on a Saturday night, so it's a rare occasion, one of those. So we'll definitely be taking advantage of that. But unfortunately, it is Liverpool to overcome on Wednesday morning. Hopefully everyone did appreciate that, and obviously the new logo, the new sort of backgrounds, etc. We do appreciate all the kind words and support over that. And a reminder, obviously all our match reviews, so not this podcast, but our longer episodes and our match reviews all still go up on our podcast app in terms of the SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. Downloads are going through the roof at the moment, so that's fantastic for everyone. Subscribe to that. Make sure you do if you like an audio-only podcast on your way to work or something. And if you are new here, please click the subscribe button. It would be great, or hit the like button before you leave. Very much appreciated. George, pleasure as always, mate. Can I lock you in for Saturday night to the pub? Because I'm looking past Wednesday morning. I'm looking more towards Saturday night, to be honest.
Unfortunately, I won't be there Saturday night. I'll be on international duties for this week. I'll be back in Sydney on Monday.
Okay. It's been a long week. It's a
definitely
week for Man United.
I definitely will be watching United. It just won't be at the pub. Unfortunately, I'll be on international duties.
It's a cracking week for United. Obviously, Chelsea as well, midweek. So I've got Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea. We could be looking at a very strong finish and very sort of happy finish to it towards the end of the season. Or on another situation, we could lose these 3 games. And who knows what position we'll find ourselves in. But some people might find that a little bit better in terms of missing out on European football at all. Maybe that is what we want. That is a discussion for this time next week. But hopefully everyone did enjoy that. Larry and I will be back on Wednesday night to review this, albeit if it is 5 or 6-0, I don't know if we'll review it or the podcast will continue. But if it's respectable, we'll definitely be back. And hopefully you can join us for that. Until then, have a good couple of days, guys, and chat to you post-Liverpool. Cheers.